So today we're going to be talking about time blocking. And time blocking is probably the most efficient and effective way to organize your day and your life. See, the challenge that we all have is we make a to-do list, which is what you need to do, right? But what we often forget to do is put together when. When are you going to do it, right? So time blocking takes care of both of those. Now, what is your to-do list, right? And we'll talk about to-do lists as we go through this, but understanding that what you need to be doing is looking at all the things that you need to get done over a period of time. And what time blocking will do is allow you to organize your day, your weeks, and the rest of your life so that you know when to do it. All right, so let's just start with the question of when do you do this? When do you start the process? Because I'm going to walk you through process from A all the way to Z as to how to do time blocking. But the first question always is, when do you do time blocking? And my recommendation is you do it Friday morning. Now, why do this Friday morning? Why do this Friday morning? Well, there's several really good reasons. Number one is if you do it Friday morning and you look back at the rest of your week, you can see the progress that you've done, right? Did you get done everything that was on? Did you get it done everything that was on your list? Because if you didn't, and there's a high likelihood that you didn't get everything done because life happens and stuff happens, right? You still have time to do something about it, right? And that might include actually having to work on the weekend. It might include having to do a Saturday or a Sunday or something. But you get an idea of your progress while you still are in the week. So, if you do it on a Sunday night, for example, and you find that there was a major thing that you didn't get done, there's nothing that you can do about it except for to kick it to the next week. So the first reason is you can see how your progress is going in real time when you still have an opportunity to do something about it. The second reason that I think is pretty important is it tells you whether you can have a stress-free weekend. See, if you've gotten everything done on your weekly list, then you can have a weekend guilt-free. Right? You know that everything that needed to get done has gotten done. And, how many times have you, like I have, been sitting there over the weekend thinking that there was probably something that I should be doing, but I didn't know what because I hadn't taken the time to figure that out. And so it made it so that the weekend was just less enjoyable because I had this kind of gnawing thing in the back of my head. And sometimes there was actually something that needed to get done and I didn't get it done. So if you do this on Friday morning, you know what your progress is and you can have a guilt-free weekend, right? Or you know that you're going to have to work on that on the weekend. And the second thing is it's just part of your weekly process, right? That Friday morning, this is something that you are going to do on Friday morning. So this is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? And then you got Saturday and Sunday, and hopefully nothing there because that's not a day of the week. So Friday, we know that you are going to do your time blocking, right? So we can already fill in the beginning of our week. That's going to happen first thing in the morning. Okay, so we already know what to do, or we know when to do it. All right, so let's talk about the what. The what equals your to-do list, right? what are the things that you need to get done this week? And I would encourage you, look into the future, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. What are the big projects that are coming up? Like if you have a trial coming up or a big hearing coming up, what are the things that need to get done in order to get that squared away? So let's say we had a trial starting in a month. Well, this week, 4 weeks out, I want to start thinking about what subpoenas do I need to get out, right? Because you don't want to be subpoenaing people, witnesses at the last minute. What other things, motions and whatnot that I need to do I need to get records? So if there's things that are missing. So your to-do list. All right. What are the major things that you're going to have on your to-do list in almost any practice? Well, you may have court. If you are a litigator, you probably have to go to court. Now, in a criminal defense firm, you're going to court a lot. In a civil firm, maybe you go to the court very rarely, but you still from time to time have to go to court, right? Or a hearing of some sort, or an arbitration or a deposition or something along those lines. Those will all be about the same. Now, when we factor in court, we also need to factor in travel, okay? Because unless your office is right next to the courthouse, you have travel. Now, the travel might be short, or it might be a couple hours long each way. That needs to be factored in. In our practice, since we appear in multiple counties, some of the courthouses are as close as a half hour. Others are an hour away. So we have to factor in travel both ways. So on our to-do list, we are going to have all our court appearances. Meetings, right? So those might be client and they might be team. So our office every week has a legal team meeting where our legal staff gets together and talks about new cases and what's going on. We also have an office meeting where we get together and then we meet with clients, right? So meetings that you have. Intakes. If you do intakes, whether they're on the phone, by Zoom, or in the office, they still take time. How is that scheduled? Is that something that you have to do? If that's not something that you have to do, then you don't need to worry about it. If you don't go to court, you don't need to worry about it. But for most law firms, I think, most lawyers, these are the kinds of things that are going to be on our to-do list. Motions and legal work, right? The motions and legal work. Now, if you're the kind of attorney that spends most of their time in the office doing legal work, then this is going to be the biggest chunk of time for you. If you're doing motions work, there was a period of time when I was in the public defender's office where all I did all day long was motions. That was, except for on Fridays when I went to court. Depending on your practice, you're certainly going to have legal work. You may have motions or preparation, that kind of stuff. Email. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about email, and I talk a lot about it in my book, Never Mind the Chaos. But my suggestion is don't just look at email randomly through the day. It becomes a huge distraction. What you want to do is you want to block off a period of time where you actually deal with the emails. You go through all of your emails and you clear it out. However that looks in your world, deal with it, respond to them, file them, whatever it is that you're doing with your emails, but do it in a chunk of time. Don't just randomly go through. Cut out time for that. Thinking. How many of you actually schedule time to think? As a lawyer, your job is to think of solutions to problems, to think of issues that need to be dealt with, and come up with some time to think. And you might want to do this every day, you might want to do it a couple times a week, but at some point in time, you need to have time for thinking that's scheduled in your calendar. This is a time where you are going to do that. Now, another thing that I think should be in your calendar is exercise. All right. Whoops. Exercise. Take care of your body, whether it's going to do yoga or, it might be after hours. It might be at lunch. It might be in the morning, but it's on your calendar. It's something that you do in your day. You need to schedule time. Most workouts, at least in my world, take at least an hour. So that's a fairly big chunk of time. Now, I'll give you kind of an A+ bonus here. Thinking and exercising time can be the same time, right? So let's say your exercise program, or what you're doing for exercise is you're going for a walk and you're going to go do a 45-minute walk around the office. You could use that as the same time as you're doing your thinking, because those two things are very, very compatible. As a matter of fact, a lot of studies show that you think better, outside the box kind of thinking, while you're engaged in some sort of physical activity. For me, most of the time that would be riding a bike. All right, what else? Well, if you're a criminal defense firm, you may have jail. All right, I had a lot of clients in jail because this is the nature of my practice. Well, one of our jails was an hour and a half away each way. So that's 3 hours of travel, plus figure at least an hour with the client. So that's a 4-hour block that I would need to make. I got to go see the clients, right? You got to have communication. You got to let them know what's going on. So where am I going to find a 4-hour block? How am I going to work that into my life, right? And that is something, if you have that, you need to do it. Now, maybe you do depositions. Now, in criminal law, you don't do depositions, but in civil law, you do depositions, and depositions could take all day, right? So that would kind of fall under your meetings or, other categories. It doesn't matter how we categorize it. You have got to figure out when you're going to do those things and when they're set up. And then just what other stuff do you have in your life? Maybe you have to pick up your kids on Wednesday afternoons, or maybe there's sporting events that you have to go to, or maybe there's, volunteer stuff that you do. Whatever it is that you do, you need to put it into your calendar. All right, so we have the what. This is just a laundry list of the potential whats that you have to do. Now, the next question in this process is, now you've done your to-do list, you know what the what is. How long is it going to take? That's the next question that you got to ask. And in my opinion, you should add 50% to however long you think it takes. So if you think going to court's going to take you an hour, give yourself an hour and a half. If you think that meeting's going to take, 2 hours, give yourself 3 hours for it. If you think that intake's going to take 45 minutes, and give yourself, over an hour to do it. Why? Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to be going back to back to back. You don't want to be rushing from, this to that to the other thing, right? Because you will be less prepared. You will be more haggard. You'll perform more poorly if you do that. But if you give yourself a little bit of space, even if it's only 5 minutes, just to take a breath, regroup. All right, what am I doing? I'm meeting with this person. What's the goal? What am I trying to accomplish with this meeting, or talking to this client, or what am I trying to accomplish in court? Then you're going to do a much better job. All right. So, when? This is when you get out your calendar. Now, I don't care whether it's electronic calendar or paper calendar, however you want to do it. There's a lot of great calendars out there. I've used many, many different kinds. The question is, when are you going to do these things, and when are you going to block them off? Now, let's say on Monday, in the criminal world, that's generally trial calendar day. So let's say on Monday, I got court. All right, so there's a block. All right, now how long is that block going to take me? Well, it kind of depends on what the nature of that hearing is. But I want to give myself some space so that I can make sure that I can get to the next thing. So let's say the next thing for me is a meeting with the team, right? So I want to leave some space here. So if I think I can be done with court by 10:30, don't set the meeting at 10:30. Set the meeting at 11. Give yourself a little bit of space. What if there's an accident? What if there's something that comes up? What if it just takes longer? Give yourself some space so that you can show up to this meeting. The last thing you want to be doing is showing up to the meeting late, right? And then let's say in the afternoon I have an intake. All right, again, don't put the intake right behind the meeting. Give yourself a little bit of space so that you make sure that you can get all of this in. Now, that may fill up my entire Monday, all right, if I give myself a little bit of space. Well, what else needs to fit in here somewhere? Well, my email, right? I need to figure out where I'm going to put email. So let's say there's a couple options here. One, I might have time to review my email while I'm sitting in court. If it's one of those court appearances where you know you're just going to be sitting around, that might be a good time. You take your tablet or your laptop or whatever, and you review your emails and you go through whatever it is your process is with the email. But let's say, I need to be super focused. We're having a hearing. I can't be messing around with email. So maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my email down here. I'm going to block off time after that intake. When I get done with that, then I'm going to set aside time to go through my email. See, I strongly suggest that you block off time for emails. All right, so what we see on Monday, I don't have time to do any substantive legal work. All right, so maybe Tuesday, I don't have any court. I don't have any meetings. So maybe what I do is I block off a big chunk of time for legal work on Tuesday because I know that I've got some time on Tuesday. I don't have anything else. I don't have anything at least going on in the morning. Now I block this time off on my calendar so that nobody sets appointments for me. And let's say I go, you know what, I'm going to do a bunch of legal work and then I want to do some thinking. I want to spend some time thinking about my business. All right. Maybe I want to improve my intake process. Maybe I need to improve how we're dealing, an SOP, how we're dealing with closing files or opening files, or maybe we need to talk about marketing. Maybe Google's done something that's changed and I've looked at the data and I go, you know what, I need to set aside some time to just really ponder this and figure this out. Okay. What am I going to need to do every single day? We know we're going to need to deal with email. So when would be a good time to deal with email? Well, maybe email will be down here at the end of the day. So you'll see I will put emails down at the end of the day because emails don't take the same kind of energy and effort that these other things, doing your legal work, your hardcore legal work, and your thinking time, and put your emails down here. Now, I haven't put exercise in here. So where are you going to put that in? Well, maybe you'll do it on Monday. You'll do your exercise in the morning. And on Tuesday, you'll rest. So no exercise. On Wednesday, maybe you're going to do it at noon. Okay, maybe that fits into your schedule. And so you're going to exercise at noon. And in the morning, you're going to do legal work. Well, let's say in the morning you have court. All right, so you block that off, you come back, you do your exercise, and then you come back and maybe you have an intake. All right. And then what are we going to do? We're going to put our email down here. We're going to block off time for that. All right. I hope you're starting to get the idea. You're going to know once you have your to-do list, where can you start fitting things in? There's going to be certain things like court and meetings, and probably intakes that are going to be set for you, and you're not going to have a lot of wiggle room with those. So those are the big blocks. But doing your legal work, doing your email, your thinking time, and your exercise time, those you can move around. They don't have to be at the same time. So let's say on Thursday you go, you know what? I don't have anything in the morning, so I'm going to start with email. All right. You may have some emails that need some response that you didn't get to. You saw them, you knew they needed a response, but you didn't have time to actually do it. So maybe on Thursday you're going to do a big email push, and you're going to clear all of that stuff out. Now, if you're a criminal defense lawyer like I am, we still have this giant block. I got a jail visit that's going to take me 4 hours. When am I going to do that? Well, I might be looking at my calendar and I go, you know what? I got court on Friday, which is pretty common in Sacramento. And I have a meeting on Thursday. Those are already etched in. So where am I going to fit in my jail visit? Well, for me, a lot of times the easiest thing to do would be to just put it on the weekend. Then I'm not feeling so pushed and rushed, and I can spend the time with the client. One of the problems with going to a jail visit is that if you feel rushed because you got something else that you've got to do, then you shortchange your client, which is a really good way to have an unhappy client. So if I do it on the weekend, then I don't have to worry about it so much. And let's say I have a big project that I'm still working on. I got more legal work to do, so I put that down here on Friday afternoon. Each of these are full days. The thing that I want to kind of point out is that we can get through everything as long as we stick to this, right? If I go to court and I come and I do the meeting, I'm good. But let's say on Tuesday, for whatever reason, I'm not feeling good, something comes up, whatever, and I don't do that legal work, where am I going to fit that in? Well, I got space, right? I got space down here on Thursday. I got space, probably on Wednesday. I definitely have space on the weekends. So if something happens, this is kind of the point, is if something happens, you have the ability to move stuff around. All right. Everybody has their own schedule. Everybody has the to-do list, the stuff that they got to get done. But a lot of people feel completely overwhelmed, and they're like, I have too much to do and not enough time to do it. I'm here to say, I think that you can get it all done if you plan, if you figure out what needs to be done, and then you schedule a time when to do it. And you stick to that plan. And if something changes for whatever reason, you leave enough space in your calendar so that you can move it. All right, everybody, I hope this is helpful.